All right, let's dive into this deep dive on positive thinking. I think most people already know that a positive outlook can be helpful, but we're going to go like way deeper than that today. We're going to get into the actual science behind it, figure out some techniques we can all use to cultivate it, and we'll even look at some real world examples of how positive thinking has, literally changed lives. So I've
Copy.
got all this research here, articles, and even some listener notes, I think.
Yeah, it's really incredible, how much research there is on this topic. And we're not just talking about like feeling good. There's actual evidence that it can um, impact pretty much everything from your mental health to your physical well-being and even, like how long you live.
That's so interesting. That longevity link really gets me. Like, what is it about people who are optimistic that could be contributing to that longer lifespan? Especially, it seems like for women, is it just behavioral, or is there something like deeper going on?
That's a great question. And to be honest, it's something that researchers are, still figuring out. It's probably a few things working together. Like optimistic people, they tend to have healthier habits. They seem to manage stress better. And some research even suggests that positive emotions can actually like boost your immune system.
So we're talking about more than just like wishful thinking here. There's like a real physiological component to this. But hold on, let's back up for a second. Can we get like a clear definition of what positive thinking actually I think it's often oversimplified as just, smiling and pretending everything's perfect.
Yeah, you're right. It's way more nuanced than that. Positive thinking isn't about like ignoring your problems
Mm-hmm.
or pretending that everything's fine when it's not. It's more about approaching life with this like mindset of possibility.
Yeah.
You focus on solutions rather than dwelling on the problems and believing in your ability to, overcome challenges. It's also about like choosing to focus on the good, even when things are, tough.
Right. So it's not about being like ridiculously cheerful at the time. It's more about being like resilient and adaptable in your outlook.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that like you have the power to choose how you see things
Hmm.
and how you respond to them. And that choice, honestly, can have a huge impact on your life.
I'm starting to see how powerful this could be, but I've got to be honest, I'm still a little skeptical. Like, can just changing your thoughts actually change your life?
Well, think of it this way. Your thoughts, they shape your emotions.
Hmm.
Your emotions influence your actions.
Yeah.
And your actions ultimately, create your reality. So you could say that your thoughts are like the architects of your life.
Whoa, that's a powerful way to put it. So how does this all like play out in the brain? Is there any actual scientific basis for the claim that positive thinking can impact like our well-being?
Oh, there absolutely is. When we experience positive emotions like, say, joy or gratitude or love, our brains release these neurotransmitters, which are the, chemical messengers that carry signals between your brain cells. Some specific neurotransmitters like dopamine and serotonin are linked to those feelings of, happiness, well-being, and motivation.
Okay, so it's not just that happy people think positively, it's that positive thinking actually creates those happy chemicals in your brain.
Exactly. And it's like a two-way street. The more you uh, cultivate those positive thoughts and emotions, the more those neural pathways get reinforced. So it's easier to experience those feelings in the future. Like you're building up a mental muscle for positivity.
This is starting to sound less like fluffy self-help and more like, real science. So, can you tell us about the research that supports this? What kind of studies are we talking about here?
Well, they use a bunch of different methods, but some of the most compelling evidence comes from these longitudinal studies. They track people over a long period of time and see how their thinking patterns and, emotional states relate to different outcomes in life. Some studies even use brain imaging, like fMRI, to actually see what's happening in the brain when people, do positive thinking practices.
So they're not just asking people like, are you a positive person?
Hmm.
They're looking at the actual impact on people's lives and like what's going on in their brains.
Exactly. And the results are really pretty amazing. For example, some studies have shown that people who are optimistic tend to have less depression and anxiety. They recover from illness more quickly and they even have like a lower risk of developing chronic diseases like heart disease.
Wow, that's incredible. I'm really starting to see the potential here. But I imagine it's not always, easy to stay positive, especially when life throws those curveballs.
You're absolutely right. Cultivating a positive mindset is a constant practice.
Mhm.
It's not about reaching some, permanent state of bliss. It's about developing the skills to handle life's challenges with resilience and optimism.
Okay, so how do we actually like DO that. I'm ready to learn some practical techniques. Let's get into the how-to of positive thinking.
Let's start with one of the most powerful techniques,
Huh.
positive self-talk. It's about becoming aware of that, that voice in your head
Mm.
and consciously choosing to replace negative or self-defeating thoughts with more positive and empowering ones.
Yeah, we all have that inner critic, right? That loves to chime in at the worst possible times.
Yeah.
So how do we like silence that voice and replace it with something more helpful?
It takes practice, but you can actually retrain your brain. One technique that's really effective is called cognitive reframing. So instead of just accepting a negative thought, you challenge it. You ask yourself, is this thought based on facts or, just assumptions?
Hmm.
And a lot of the time you'll find that those negative thoughts are based on like fear or insecurity, not reality. Then you consciously choose to reframe that thought in a more positive or neutral way.
Can you give us like a concrete example of how this works?
Sure. So imagine you're facing a really challenging project at work. And that voice in your head is like, this is too complicated. I'm going to fail.
Yeah.
Instead of getting caught up in that, spiral of negativity, you could reframe it and say, okay, this is a challenging project,
Hmm.
but I can break it down into smaller steps and tackle it one piece at a time. I've done difficult things before, and I can do this too.
I can see how that would totally change, your energy and motivation. It's like you're taking back control instead of letting your thoughts control you.
Exactly. And the more you practice this, the more automatic it becomes. You're basically like rewiring your brain to, default to a more positive outlook.
This is fascinating. I'm already starting to like rethink some of my own self-talk patterns. Are there other techniques that can help us build a more positive mindset?
Oh, absolutely. Another really powerful technique is gratitude. It might seem simple, but consciously focusing on what you're thankful for, even the small things, can have a huge impact on how you see the world.
Everyone's talking about gratitude these days. Does it really like make a
Yeah, it
difference?
really does. When you shift your attention to the good things in your life, it actually changes your brain chemistry.
Hmm.
You release dopamine and serotonin, those feel-good neurotransmitters we talked about earlier. So it naturally lifts your mood and creates a more positive emotional state.
So it's not just about like writing in a gratitude journal, right? It's about actively cultivating a mindset of appreciation all the time.
Exactly. It's about noticing and really savoring the good things, big or small. It could be something as simple as, enjoying a good meal or feeling the sun on your skin, or even like a kind gesture from a stranger.
I can see how that would help you shift away from negativity. Okay, so what else do we have in our like positive thinking toolkit?
Well, sometimes those negative thoughts are really stubborn,
Yeah.
even with positive self-talk and gratitude. That's where challenging negative thoughts comes in. It's about not just accepting negativity, but actually, questioning it.
So like putting those negative thoughts on trial.
Exactly. You ask yourself, is this thought actually true? What evidence do I have to support it? What's a more balanced or realistic way to look at this situation?
I like that. It's like taking control of your mind instead of letting those negative thoughts run wild. Do you have any examples of how to like challenge and reframe those really stubborn negative thoughts?
So let's say you make a mistake at work and your inner critic is like, I'm so incompetent, I'm going to get fired.
Oh, I think we've all been there.
Yeah.
That self-doubt can be like totally crippling.
Instead of letting those thoughts take over, you can challenge them. Ask yourself, is it really true that one mistake, means you're incompetent? Are
Mhm.
you really going to get fired over one error? Probably not. And then you can reframe the thought in a more realistic and helpful way. You might say, okay, I made a mistake. Everyone does. I'm going to learn from this, and I'll do better next time.
Right. It's about seeing it as a learning opportunity, not a total catastrophe. What else can we do to combat those like really persistent negative thoughts and self-doubt, the kind that can just, totally sabotage our efforts? Because sometimes those negative thoughts feel like they have like a mind of their own.
That's a great question. And it's definitely something we're going to get into in the next part of our deep dive. We'll go into specific strategies for um, overcoming those really persistent negative thoughts and, staying positive even when things are tough.
I am hooked. I can't wait to learn more about how to like conquer those inner demons and, keep those positive vibes flowing. Welcome back to our deep dive into the power of positive thinking.
Glad to be back. We were getting into some practical techniques for building a more, optimistic outlook.
Yeah, we were talking about cognitive reframing and
Such
gratitude.
great tools for like shifting your perspective.
Totally. But, let's be real. Even with the best techniques, sometimes those negative thoughts, they keep coming back.
Yeah, especially when, life throws those inevitable curveballs. Everyone
Mm.
faces challenges and setbacks and disappointments.
So how do we deal with those moments? Like when negativity just hits hard, what are some tools we can use then?
Well, something that's really helps me is to remember that thoughts are just thoughts. They're not necessarily, facts.
That's interesting. Can you explain that a little more?
Sure. So our minds are like constantly generating thoughts, some positive, some negative. But we don't have to believe every thought that pops into our head.
So it's about like recognizing that we have a choice in how we respond to those thoughts.
Exactly. We can choose to like spiral into negativity, or we can choose to just observe the thought without judgment and then, let it go.
That sounds a lot easier said than done. Any tips for like actually doing that?
Mindfulness practices can be really helpful. Things like meditation or, even just deep breathing exercises, they can help you become more aware of your thoughts and emotions without getting, totally swept away by them.
I've heard a lot about mindfulness. Is it like actually as effective as people say?
Right. It can be. It's basically about, training your attention to focus on the present moment. When you're mindful, you're not like dwelling on the past or worrying about the future. You're just observing what's happening right now without judgment.
I can see how that could be helpful for managing negative thoughts. Instead of getting lost in like a story about why something bad happened, you're just focusing on the experience of, the present moment.
Exactly. And when you're present, you're less likely to get like hooked by those negative thought patterns.
Makes sense. So mindfulness is one tool. What else can we do when those negative thoughts are just like really sticky and won't go away?
Another technique is to challenge those thoughts directly. You can ask yourself, is this thought really true? Like, what evidence do I have to support it? What's a more, balanced or realistic way to look at this situation?
I like that. It's like, putting those negative thoughts on trial and making them defend themselves.
Exactly. And a lot of times when we like really examine those negative thoughts, they don't hold up.
But sometimes even when we try to challenge those thoughts and, reframe them, they still keep coming back. What do we do then?
That's where self-compassion comes in.
Self-compassion. I love that. It's like giving yourself a break instead of, beating yourself up.
Exactly. We all make mistakes and, experience setbacks and have negative thoughts. It's part of being human. Self-compassion is about like treating ourselves with the same kindness and understanding that we would offer to, a friend who's going through something tough.
So instead of saying like, ugh, I'm so stupid for making that mistake, we can say, okay, everyone makes mistakes. It's fine. I'm learning from this.
Exactly. And remember, forgiveness is a key part of self-compassion too. We need to like forgive ourselves for our mistakes and imperfections, just as we would forgive others.
That's so important. I think we often like hold ourselves to these impossible standards and then beat ourselves up when we inevitably fall short.
We do. And that kind of negative self-talk can really sabotage our efforts to cultivate a more positive mindset.
Right.
So be kind to yourself, acknowledge your struggles, but also, celebrate your strengths and your accomplishments.
Yeah, celebrating those wins is so important. Big or small, it's about like acknowledging those successes and giving ourselves credit for the progress we've made.
It is. And sometimes when we're feeling down on ourselves, it's easy to forget all the amazing things we've already, accomplished.
It's like we get so fixated on what we haven't done yet that we lose sight of like how far we've come.
Exactly. So take some time to like reflect on your past successes, big and small. Remind yourself of the challenges you've overcome and the, goals you've achieved.
It's like building a highlight reel of your own awesomeness.
I love that. And don't be afraid to, share those successes with others. Celebrating your wins with supportive friends and family can boost your confidence and reinforce that positive mindset.
That's great advice. But what about those times when it feels like, life is just throwing one curveball after another? How do we keep from getting like totally discouraged?
That's where resilience comes in. It's the ability to bounce back from, adversity, to adapt and thrive in the face of challenges.
Okay, I'm ready to get resilient. Give me the tools.
One of the best ways to build resilience is to focus on what you can control.
What do you mean by that?
Well, we can't always control like the events that happen to us, but we can control how we choose to, respond to them.
So instead of getting overwhelmed by the things we can't change, we focus on like what we can change.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, for example, if you lose your job, you can't change the fact that it happened, but you can control how you respond. You can choose to, wallow in self-pity, or you can choose to see it as an opportunity to like pursue a new career path that you're more passionate about.
That's a really empowering perspective. It's about taking back control even when things are, really tough.
It is, and it's about focusing on like taking action. What steps can you take right now to move forward? What resources are available to you? Who can you reach out to for support?
So it's about taking those small steps, even when you don't really feel like it,
Right?
trusting that, you'll eventually get to where you need to be.
Exactly. And you know what else can be really helpful in building resilience? Having a strong support system.
Ah, yes. Friends, family, mentors, therapists, people who can, offer encouragement and perspective and just be a shoulder to cry on when you need it.
It's so important to remember that you're not alone in this. We all need support, especially during those, challenging times. Talking to someone you trust can help you, like process your emotions, gain clarity, and develop coping strategies.
And sometimes just venting to someone who cares can make a huge difference.
It really can. So don't be afraid to, reach out to your support network when you're struggling. There's strength in vulnerability.
This is all great advice, but I have to ask, what about those times when it feels like, it's just one challenge after another? How do we keep from getting like totally burned out?
That's where self-care comes in. It's not just about, bubble baths and face masks, although those can be nice. It's about prioritizing your physical, mental, and emotional well-being, especially during those stressful times.
So what does self-care look like in the context of, maintaining a positive mindset?
It can take a lot of different forms, depending on, your needs and preferences. It could be getting enough sleep, eating healthy foods, moving your body, spending time in nature, connecting with loved ones, or, pursuing hobbies that bring you joy.
Basically, like anything that helps you feel good and recharged.
Exactly. Self-care is not selfish, it's essential. When we take care of ourselves, we're better equipped to handle, life's challenges and maintain that positive outlook.
This all sounds good in theory, but I'm curious, are there any like real world examples of how positive thinking has actually changed people's lives?
Absolutely. There are so many stories of people who have used the power of positive thinking to, overcome adversity and achieve amazing things. One of the sources we have mentions a woman who used positive thinking to recover from a really serious illness. She focused on like visualizing her healing and practicing gratitude for every small improvement and surrounding herself with, supportive friends and family.
And she made a full recovery.
She did. Against all odds, her doctors were amazed. It's a really powerful example of how our mindset can like actually influence our physical health.
That's incredible. It's like the power of her mind helped her heal her body. Are there other examples like that?
There are. Another story that really stuck with me is about a man who used positive thinking to, achieve his drum career. He started every day with affirmations, visualized himself succeeding in his field, and like refused to let setbacks get him down.
And it worked.
It did. After years of hard work and, unwavering optimism, he finally landed his dream job.
And it just shows the power of believing in yourself and your goals, even when you face, obstacles.
These stories are so inspiring. I'm starting to see that positive thinking is not just some, fluffy feel-good concept. It's a real tool for creating the life we want. It is. And the best part is it's a skill we can all develop. It's not something you're like born with. In the final part of our deep dive, we'll go over some key takeaways and actionable steps you can take, like today, to cultivate a more positive and resilient mindset.
I'm ready to put all this into practice. I can't wait to learn more about, how to harness the power of positive thinking and create a life that's not just good, but truly great. Welcome back to the final part of our deep dive into positive thinking.
It's been really fascinating, exploring the science behind this, the techniques, and even some like real life examples of how it can change people's lives.
I've got to admit, I started this whole deep dive a little skeptical.
Yeah.
But I'm really starting to see the potential. It's more than just, slapping on a smile. It's about developing a mindset that can help you like get through tough times, build that resilience, and just, create a better life.
Yeah, absolutely. It's exciting to see these ideas connect with people and like spark that desire for change.
So as we wrap up, let's try to distill all this into some key takeaways. What are the big things we want listeners to remember?
Well, I think the first thing is that positive thinking isn't about like denying reality or pretending everything's perfect. It's about approaching life with that, that mindset of possibility. focusing on solutions, not dwelling on problems, and believing you can, overcome challenges.
So it's like seeing the glass half full, but not ignoring the fact that there's still room for more, right?
Exactly. It's about acknowledging the good, 80 the bad, but choosing to, focus on the good as much as you can.
And, the research really shows that making that shift can impact our mental and physical health, our relationships, even like how long we live.
It's not just some wishful thinking. There's real science behind it.
We've also learned that positive thinking is a skill you can learn. It's not just like a personality trait you're born with.
That's so important.
Mm.
Even if you're, naturally more pessimistic or negative, you can train your brain to think more positively with, conscious effort and practice.
And we've explored like a whole toolkit of techniques. Positive self-talk, gratitude, challenging those negative thoughts, reframing situations, practicing self-compassion.
Exactly. The key is to, find what works for you and actually use those techniques every day.
It's like building a mental muscle, right? The more you use it, the stronger it gets.
Absolutely. And remember, it's a journey, not a destination. There will be good days and bad days, days where you feel super optimistic, and days where, negativity creeps in.
That's okay. The important thing is to like keep practicing, keep learning, keep moving forward.
You don't have to be perfect, just, keep showing up and making an effort.
So what's one like actionable step our listeners can take today to start cultivating a more positive mindset?
I'd say start with gratitude. It's
Yeah.
such a simple but powerful practice.
We keep coming back to gratitude. It seems like a key theme in all this positive psychology stuff.
It is, and for good reason. When you focus on what you're thankful for, it shifts your attention away from negativity. It helps you appreciate the good things, no matter how small they are.
And it doesn't have to be, complicated. Just take a few minutes to write down like 3 things you're grateful for.
Yeah, or even just take a moment to mentally acknowledge the good things as they happen throughout your day.
I'm going to try that. I can like already feel my mood lifting just thinking about it.
That's the power of gratitude. It can really
Yeah.
shift your perspective and, create a more positive state of mind.
I'm feeling really inspired to put all this into practice. But before we wrap up, I wanted to touch on something you mentioned earlier. You talked about how positive thinking can not only like benefit ourselves, but also extend outwards to, the world around us.
Yes. That's something I'm really passionate about. Just imagine, the ripple effect. If we all approached our interactions, our communities, even global issues, with a more, positive and solution-oriented mindset.
That's a powerful thought. Instead of getting stuck in negativity and despair, we choose to focus on possibility, hope, action.
Exactly. It's about believing that we can actually, make a difference, both in our own lives, AD, and the world around us.
It's about moving from a mindset of scarcity to a mindset of abundance, believing there's enough for everyone and that we can, build a better future together.
That's a beautiful and inspiring thought to end on. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the power of positive thinking. We hope you found it valuable and that you'll, keep exploring this amazing mindset.
Absolutely. Remember, you have the power to create a life filled with, joy, meaning, and purpose. So go out there and make it happen.